Since the dawn of mankind, humans have been manifesting their reality through the beliefs that they hold to be true. When I entered my second 50, I began to question my beliefs on aging. I knew that many of us shared the same fears. Fears manifested from the beliefs that as people age, they may suffer from mental decline, isolation, loss of independence, financial hardship, and worthlessness. I asked myself, does it need to be this way? Or can I change these beliefs? So I set out on a journey around the world, asking experts in the field of personal reinvention, how do we really find freedom in our second 50?
Do you think that the private thoughts in your head can affect the way a rat perceives itself? In 1963, Bob Rosenthal and Leonore Jacobson conducted an experiment to see if it was possible to do just that, influence rats based upon how their students perceived each rat's level of intelligence. Late one night, Bob went into the lab and placed signs on the rats' cages, Maze Bright and Maze Dull. What you need to know is that all of the rats came from the same breeder, and there was no distinct difference in intelligence between any of the rats. The only difference was how the students perceived the intelligence of the rats. And sure enough, through the students' perceptions, the rats that were labelled Maze Bright became the brightest, and the rats that were labelled Maze Dull became the dullest.
Do you see yourself in that classroom? If not, look a little closer, because you're in there. We're all in there. Because that's the classroom of life, and we've all passed through those doors, and that's where you picked up your beliefs. Now, we all know how powerful beliefs are. We see it every day. In fact, people will even kill to defend their beliefs. As social animals, we've probably always been affected by beliefs to some degree. Studies of our closest DNA relatives, the apes, suggest that primate social animals require both followers and leaders. And it's the accepting of leaders without challenge and the introduction of language that most likely led human primates towards the expression of beliefs. After I turned 50, I noticed that things got a bit harder. At first, I wondered if it was just me. So I started to observe others, what they said, how they felt, and what they were doing. I noticed that some seemed to slow down, while others seemed to pick up speed, and I wondered why. The more I observed, the more I realized just how often we ran our life on autopilot, and just how little our everyday routines were controlled by our conscious mind.
On a regular day-by-day basis, on a regular life, we have 5% of our life controlled by our conscious mind's wishes, desires, and aspirations, and 95% of our life comes from the programs in the subconscious, primarily from other people. There was a time where you fell in love with somebody, head over heels in love. Well, I said, well, what was different about the honeymoon? It's like, it completely reverses. When you fall in love, you actually run your life 90% or more from the conscious mind.
So we all have this movie that's playing in our mind. And whatever is playing in our mind is very regularly being seen in our subconscious mind. And that is the movie that's creating the reality that we see through our eyes.
And the latest research shows that 47% of our behavior every day is habitual. For me, the first 2 hours in the day, I go through at least 20 habits. And I don't think about them, it's unconscious. But when you really understand how those work and make better choices and be aware of the bad choices that you're making and the potential consequences, then you can shift it to the other side and create successful choices that will give you successful results.
Once we realize and accept that we need to be more aware of how we're living our life, we can begin challenging beliefs that we've accepted in our past. Certainly, some beliefs are good for us, but without question, some beliefs need to be reevaluated and ultimately changed.
So I live in Southern California, where we have more plastic surgeons than almost anywhere in the world. And I often say we care more about our faces, our boobs, our bellies, and our butts than we do our brain. How crazy is that? So many people think that as they get older, that it's normal not to have a good memory. We did a study with 8,000 brains. So the brain gets less and less and less active over time, but it doesn't have to. Your behavior either accelerates the aging process, making you look and feel older than you are, or your behavior decelerates the aging process. We have this whole group of 80-year-old brains that are gorgeous. I mean, they're just full, symmetrical, and they correlate with people who are highly cognitively sharp.
Most of us pick up our programming between the ages of 2 and 6. Now, we are predominantly in theta brainwave activity during those years, so we're like sponges. Anything that we do and anything that we hear, we just store straight into our subconscious mind, and then we take it on as our truth. So we have absolutely no judgment during those years. We just accept and absorb everything.
Visualization works by using the mind to influence our perceptions and personal reality. By controlling our mental power, we can influence and change our ideas, consciousness, and even our physical and spiritual environment.
People think that they have a calm mind of sorts, and they don't realise that as they age, their mind gets messier and messier, and more thoughts come into their mind, and more assumptions are created by their mind. And what happens is they think they're making a good, reasoned decision, but of course it's all based on muddy thinking. It's a mess. It's a really muddy mind. And so the trouble is, by the time you got to 50, you've had programming, social conditioning from every source on the planet, advertising doing this to you, fear, worry, you should be stressed, you should do this, you can't do that, you can't do it this way, you must do it that way. All of that has basically beaten you up throughout your entire life. And so at that point, the secret at any point in life is to calm your mind, have it still, and then put in place some structures so that your mind can just think automatically, successfully, rather than the way it thinks now, which is basically, at the very best, organised chaos.
Our mental capacities typically peak around 23, 27, something around that, mid-20s, and then we go down because we finish our college and we're not accelerating our learning. But if we're in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, or 100s, and we're getting the glucose and oxygen working in that brain, it will last for an unbelievable period of time. The brain is waiting to be used. If you don't use it, you lose it. You got to muscle it up.
A study published by the journal Cell Metabolism suggests that new brain cell growth occurs when we exercise regardless of age. And in a second study by the University of Texas, it was discovered that cognitive decline can be improved by habitually exercising higher-order thinking strategies. By that, we mean disciplined, structured thinking, such as categorizing things like grocery lists. When you think about aging, what pops into your mind? Vitality, enthusiasm, passion? Or are you derailed by thoughts of loneliness, sickness, and loss of independence? Unfortunately for many older adults, it's the latter that they associate with, because society leads us to believe that this is a time of loss of integrity, loss of meaning, and loss of purpose. But what if this was the time for us to fully discover our true sense of self and purpose? Because it's purpose that drives us out of our bed each morning, and it's purpose that validates that our life matters.
Find something that you absolutely love to learn, go out there and do it every day, and find a purpose for learning it. The best way to do it is to teach what you learn to somebody else and give yourself a deadline to teach it, and you'll keep your mind active. Find some cause that inspires you that you want to learn about, and keep yourself active from now on. And that way you keep adding life to years and years to life.
We're going to ask you a few questions because we want to know why you're so healthy at 96.
Don't bring up my age, please.
Okay, we won't.
You know, it really annoys me when people want to know how old you are.
Right.
What difference does it make? I mean, they put you in a category then, and they say, well, she's an old lady, and you're just sort of forgotten, put out a shelf or something. I don't think you should be treated like that. I think your age should be what you are yourself.
Right.
We're not all old ladies at 50. I like reading with the kids. We have a class over there every Thursday with our tables all set up, and we have the same kids. We have about 5 kids. They get 15 minutes alone with us.
And you know what? They keep you young.
Well, I hope something keeps me young.
There are 3 typical emotional moods that drive us: anger, sadness, and fear. Anger is as strong or stronger than a heroin addiction. People will do anything to be right and to make others wrong. They'll do anything to be temporarily powerful and to be able to force and dominate others. The second predominant emotion in the world is sadness. It's estimated that 350 million people are addicted to sadness. These are people who are clinically depressed. The third key emotional state is fear. Statistics show that 23% of women and 16% of men are addicted to fear. These are people who worry all the time about something. They will surround themselves with situations that cause them to be on edge. The state of chaos that we've created in our life due to the limiting beliefs that are anchored in our emotional reactive moods causes us to become resigned to life. It causes us to think that we're incapable of having it all. And so we give up.
There are 4 different ways that you can respond to fear. We tend to talk about 3 of them a lot, but the 4th one is really the purpose. So usually we talk about fight, where you resist and you're challenging people. Secondly, we talk about flight, where maybe you distract yourself with different things so you don't have to really pay attention. And the third one is freeze, where you just can't even move, you can't think, you're just in a total state of anxiety. But the 4th thing, and what fear is really designed to do, is to help you focus, help you narrow things down so that you can take action on what's truly most important to you.
First of all, you have a feeling which leads to a thought, which leads to an action, which gives you a result. Now you might think about that and you might say, wait a minute, how does that really show up in my life? Well, there's certain feelings you have every day. If you have a feeling of being down and you wake up and you're like, my life feels really heavy and down today, guess what shows up for you? Thoughts around being down, which leads to actions that aren't serving you and results that will definitely not serve you. Once you get your feelings in line with your thoughts, all of a sudden the results in your life change.
Have you ever been triggered in a relationship where someone says something and suddenly you're over the top angry at them, and then maybe it's even a pattern that every time they say something or every time you're home at Christmas time with your family, somebody's going to do something or say something and you go through the same pattern again and again and again. These patterns in life, when you see the same experience happening again and again, those are about beliefs.
Over the past 20 years, the divorce rate among baby boomers has surged by more than 50%, which sets up the frightening scenario that unmarried baby boomers are 5 times more likely to live in poverty than their married counterparts. The key is not to look for greener pastures. The key is to better understand relationships. Because once you do, every relationship has the potential to be the ideal relationship. I now know that every relationship I was in, I could still be in.
Right, if you'd only known, right?
If I'd only known.
If you'd understand the differences and why that was, and how each of you feel loved and appreciated.
Right, and I didn't know that they were loving me in their way. I wanted them to love me in my way, and they didn't know I was loving them in my way, and they weren't getting what they wanted.
Absolutely, that's what personality differences are.
One of the key complaints that I get, especially from men and women over the age of 50, is I don't have enough energy. And this whole equation about energy has a lot to do not just with fitness, not just with our exercise program, but also has a lot to do with what we're eating. And we're always working by adding the good stuff in and not worrying about the bad stuff. We don't worry about taking anything away. We don't worry about diets, because diet has the word die in it. We're into living it. To live it. And the way we live it is by adding in all the good things.
One of the really great things about human beings is that we're always looking for an easier, faster, more efficient way to do things. But unfortunately, when it comes to health, there are no shortcuts. Yes, it's hard to make the time. And yes, it's hard to push yourself to get up and go after a mentally challenging day. But if you don't find the time to care for yourself, who will?
One of the things that I have found is that most of us know what it is that we need to eat and do to be healthy, but we don't do it. And the reason for that is because I feel we don't think we're worthy of it. We're just living day by day. But it's, health is like an investment. The more that you put away today is going to determine what it is that you're going to have tomorrow. So the choices we make today, eating, exercising, is what's going to determine how healthy we are in the future.
For a lot of us, we're looking for magic bullets. And I talk to many people who, they've got the aches and pains because their bodies are changing, and they go to rely on acetaminophen or ibuprofen as an answer. Unfortunately, while those products are very safe and very effective for short-term use, they come with long-term risks. People can Google NSAID deaths, basically ibuprofen deaths, and find startling information, shocking information that isn't really talked about in the mainstream media.
At 35, I was 50 pounds overweight, stressed out, going to bed with pain every night of my life, taking back relaxants and painkillers every day, to the point where my liver was starting to shut down because I had taken so many painkillers without even thinking about it. And now, in my 50s, I'm getting my life back. I'm getting my health back. I'm actually really excited about getting healthier as I get older. To me, aging has taken on a whole new possibility.
So as we age, we want to brighten ourselves up more. We start getting a little bit more gray. Our skin isn't quite the same as when you're young. Our muscle tone isn't quite the same. So we've got to concentrate and focus on bringing in more brightness. And the beautiful colors of fruits and vegetables add to that brightness. They add a little pep to our step. They give us a little bit of a happier disposition throughout the day.
Currently, maximum human life expectancy is somewhere around 120 years, but I think we're going to have a major paradigm shift during the next 50 years. And when that occurs, we'll be looking at human life expectancies measured in centuries rather than decades. So what our goal is, as anti-aging and longevity physicians, is to help our patients live long enough to take advantage of these technologies that are coming in the years ahead.
With all the new medical discoveries, longevity, and anti-aging clinics, it's no longer a question, how long will you live? Now the question is, how well will you live your additional years?
A couple of years ago, I noticed that I was starting to lose some function and mobility. I was getting stiff. My old ways of training, lifting heavy, pushing heavy stuff all the time, was leaving some gaps in my fitness as I really wanted to quantify it. So I started looking at how I could relieve tension, develop more strength, mobility, stability, some of those other key components to not just fitness, but to life. Some of the limiting beliefs that I hear from a lot of our clientele are that I should start slowing down because I'm getting older. Or this ache or this pain it must just be age. I'm too old. And I think, why?
I hear from so many people this belief that, because I've never made money in the first 50 years of my life, I'll never be rich. And that is one of the most detrimental beliefs you can have. And I'll tell you why. First of all, it gives you no hope. It absolutely robs you of the idea that you can create something from nothing, create a new business, become an artist, sell your artwork, earn money, and be wealthy. So it robs your dreams before you even allow yourself to dream that dream. And secondly, it has an actual effect on the physiological body. In the brain, it stops the neural pathways from forming new connections in order to discover new ways to make money.
If you're a woman 50 or older, for you to start a business, for you to be an entrepreneur, you know so much more than you realize. Because even if you haven't been in the workforce, you've been running a business of your home. You've been running a business of your life. And that can be a really complicated thing to do. People want guidance. People want to understand your story because your story is actually a universal story.
We're living in an extremely exciting time of life. 23% of all new entrepreneurs are between the ages of 50 and 65. Why? It appears that people either want a sense of purpose or they need to supplement their income. In a study commissioned by Bankrate, 62% of all Americans said they had less than $500 cash on hand in a checking or savings account. Now, when you equate those numbers with what the average person needs to retire, it just doesn't add up. So how did we end up this way? Until you know, you can't be expected to know. And money management is no different than any other learned skill. Who needs to retire anyway? To continue to work isn't a bad thing. In fact, for most of us, it's a really good thing. It keeps you physically active, it keeps you socially active, and until you find your purpose, it gives you a purpose to wake up each day and an opportunity to continue to work towards your goals and dreams.
You know, planning isn't just for people who have lots of money or who are on track financially to get to where they want to go. In fact, I think some of the greatest benefit is for people who aren't on track and who are perhaps living paycheck to paycheck, really haven't saved any money, and now they're into their second 50 and they're starting to wonder, is this a problem? Or they realize it's a problem. That's when it really does help to contact and work with a financial planner, because it's just good. Firstly, avoid the procrastination. Like, there's no point in procrastinating about it. If you're worried about it, let's get it on the table and talk to someone who can help you. Then that person can help you untangle your finances, figure out what might be available to you working longer. Sometimes just working a few years longer, if you can, makes a huge positive difference to your finances after you retire.
I personally believe that spirituality is a connection of all through the energy of one. What I mean by that is that we're all brothers and sisters under one higher power. All of our separation is man-made, created through fears, the need to feel important, and in most cases, the need to be right. This separation only remains because we have not found our own individual identity, so we cling to the separation identity passed on to us from others. Once we are comfortable with who we are, we can respect everyone else, which means once we get past all this ideological thinking, we'll see just how amazing everyone is. I mean, think about it. Just to get here, you had to swim faster than as many as 1.2 billion competitors, which makes your conception 6 times harder than winning the Powerball lottery. And you'd feel pretty special if you won that, wouldn't you?
Spirituality is all about being able to have a relationship with and a connection to that higher source or that higher power. So whenever I'm trying to create something new or determining the direction of my life that I want to live, I always ask the question, how can I serve? And I sit quiet long enough to hear the answer, because when you ask the question, you will always get an answer every single time.
Where is God not? It's in everything. It's everywhere. It's 100% omnipresent in its every experience. And when we're basically grateful for our lives, our hearts open up, we feel love for life again, we feel that things are on the way, not in the way, we feel that things are instructive, not obstructive, we feel like we're masters of our destiny, not victims of our history, and we literally go out and we want to tackle life and do a major contribution in life. We feel inspired again. And when we do, we go out and make a service to people. And I think religious service is fine, but being of service to people is our spirituality.
So we're programmed, though, to see the downside, to see the negative in everything. Pick up a newspaper anywhere in the world, first 5 pages, try and find one positive thing. It's not there. It's all negative. People are attracted to what's wrong. Well, we want to recognize that and say, no more. I am going to look at the other side. If I can't find the good, I'll just say it just is. That's it.
Spirituality to me is connecting with the greater part of me, the greater part of you, the greater part of all of us that encompasses everything of who we are. It's not dogma. It's not the religion that I was taught growing up. It's not God is up there on a throne, an old man sitting on a gold throne with a long beard, condemning and watching and judging everything I do. Spirituality to me is realizing that I am part of everything around me. I am connected to everyone around me. We are all part of one another. We are all part of the same whole. And to me, we are all part of God. We are all God together.
One of the areas that I'm very interested in is what's called word for the world. There's a word in you that explains what you're living from. And what that does is it helps you to understand this helping and hindering beliefs that you have. Because there are things that hold you back and there are things that take you forward. And one of the areas that it becomes really important to learn about is the area of mentoring, because that's actually one of the ways that you can leverage this life purpose is becoming a mentor to others, to educate others, because that links very much with what your life purpose is. And I would encourage everyone to look at their word for the world, to look at mentoring as a way in which to be the best for the world.
It never ceases to amaze me, watching people try to solve their problems with the same thinking that created their problems in the first place. So how do you find new solutions? 2 ways, education and meditation. At YSF, it's our mandate to provide avenues for education and personal growth in all 5 of your dimensions. It's your responsibility to find the time and self-discipline to apply education and meditation to your life. Remember, there's only one thing worse than death, and that's to have not lived your life to the fullest. Look to expand your education. Challenge yourself to continually grow. Seek out quality coaches and reprogram beliefs that are holding you back. It's an exciting time to be in your second 50.
I believe that we have the power to be anything, to do anything, to create anything in our lives, and I mean anything. And this is from someone who has had every bit of adversity in my past. It's not the silver spoon kind of life that I'm living. But the interesting thing is, the only thing that it took to get from where I was, born in a family where my parents filed bankruptcy, I then filed bankruptcy, I've got 2 divorces to my name, all this kind of stuff of failures I put in quotes, because to me they're all stepping stones to get where we are. The thing is, anyone can do this, and it all comes from changing only one thing. And that one thing that you have to change is right here. You have to believe that you can do this. I'm going to pretend that I can do this, and I'm going to take one step forward today toward that goal, believing and pretending that I'm going to succeed. And you know what? You will, because just by changing the belief itself.
That I'm absolutely very, very content. And it doesn't matter how old I am. I do my days and I enjoy it. But if you can don't sit in your rocking chair.
Good.
Or don't sit for hours on the computer.
Right, I'm bad at that. Good thing you told me.
In my mid-40s, I went through quite a traumatic experience. I had back surgery, lost my home, my family. I had a tumor on my vertebrae. It took the wind out of my sails. I could not do one more thing. I couldn't do anything. I believe to this day that that tumor was planted there by years and years of anger and fear. And so I used to visualize almost every day during the surgery and after that this tumor had grown wings and was flying away. And the big realization and limiting belief that I acknowledged was that I wasn't loved and I wasn't wanted. And the truth was, as long as I kept believing that, it was what kept showing up.
So we should question some of our beliefs. Where did our beliefs come from? Why should a person slow down? I mean, if all the knowledge and all the power is evenly present in all places at all times, and all science and all theology, the only 2 references we have tell us that, then the longer we live, the more energy we should have. We shouldn't slow down, we should speed up. And we should learn to calm down.
Happiness comes from a place inside of you where you're free. Freedom from the past and the stuff that's holding you down. Old woundology, old blame, old regret, old stuff. I walked around with a lot of anger, and people could feel the anger, and I wasn't even aware that I was feeling it myself. So I didn't know what to do about it. So I had to go on a little bit of an archaeological dig, so to speak. What's underneath the surface of Valerie that is coming up and out that I'm not even aware of? And I was able to find those things and work on releasing them.
I can just vividly remember one night, I'm sitting on the floor of my post-marriage breakup condo. And I've always been a renovator, so I'm, this bathroom's gonna be my latest project. I'm all lit up about what tiles I'm gonna buy. And I just start bawling as I sit there looking at these tools. And it was such a moment of clarity, because I'm looking back over the last 10 years of my life and all the outward success I've had, and I'm realizing that it's me that needs renovating. It's me. And so I made the promise to myself right then and right there. I started doing every self-help course under the sun. I started to get a lot more serious about my yoga and my health and my diet. And slowly my life started to change.
Now, we've been doing some brain mapping of people when they're in normal thought, in meditation, and in visualization. And it's incredible how the brain will react differently to those 3 different types of activities. And what we can see is that if we are very purposeful about what we think and the movie that we continuously play in our mind, we can actually change the course of our life.
If we don't take conscious control of our thinking about aging, the media will take care of it for us. And we will take in those images and relate to, oh, this is what aging is. And we will do an unconscious agreement with an aging path that does not have to be ours. I have a picture in my mind of myself at 95, and I am vibrant. And I'm doing what I love doing, which is speaking and teaching. If you want to live to be a ripe, old, happy, full age, you must be willing to pick up the phone and say goodbye to people along the way. That's part of this journey. And at the same time, keep making friends of many different generations. And you'll have, not only will it assist you in having healthy relationships, but it'll also keep you younger.
I mean, there's no question that, the universe is sending us messages all the time. And I was one of those young, ego strong guys that never listened. So it just hit me harder and harder and harder. Right before 50, I looked at it, holy crap, I'm fat and 50, or I will be fat and 50. My business is failing, my marriage is on the rocks, I don't have a great relationship with my kids. I had a lot of limiting beliefs and a blueprint that was in my head that was really, really deep. Money is the root of all evil. That was preached hard. Success? No, that's not right. Struggle. Work hard and struggle. That was what was conceived as in my head as right. So every time I got down the road of thinking I was achieving success, something would happen. And oh yeah, guess what? My subconscious was pulling me back and saying, I was sabotaging what I was doing. Through a lot of self-awareness, revisiting my vision as to where it is I want to go on this planet and taking the appropriate action. Now all those things are in place and they're strong and they're healthy and they're thriving, and abundance flows in my life as a positive result of that. I'm living proof that success after 50 is absolutely possible.
Thanks for watching. My name's Frank Moffat, and life's never over till it's over. So now's the time to let the magic begin. From the cast and crew, we want to wish you a positive, productive, happy, and healthy second 50. Keep smiling.
Life presents a challenge to that day, the stuff that's important, well, it comes and goes. If we base our value on other men's words, and they don't even know us, it's simply absurd. When that door finally opens and our heart rushes out, the world changes forever, removing the doubt. Now we're free to laugh, free to love, free to touch heaven and the stars above. Now we're living our dream, dancing on the moonbeams, sailing the seas, floating up above the trees. There's nothing we can't do, nothing we hearts are open, and we're living our dream. Don't ever look back, never forget. Embrace what we've learned, hold no regrets. The limits we embraced strangled our heart. When we release them, we got a new start. Now we're free to laugh, free to love, free to touch heaven and stars above. Now we're living our dream, dancing on the moonbeams, sail the seas, floating up above the trees. There's nothing we can't do, nothing that we can't be. Our hearts are open, and we're living our dream. If there's one thing we share with the rest of the world, it's that life's an oyster, and we're the pearls. But don't look to others to make yourself shine, 'cause you're the only one that'll ever find the time. And we're living our dream, dancing on the moonbeams, sailing the seas, floating up above the trees. There's nothing we can't do, nothing that we can't be. Our hearts are open, and we're living our dream. Won't keep my dreams beneath my pillow.